Hey friends, it's Holly from Chic Antique and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'll be teaching you how to make over a solid wood bed frame using chalk mineral paint. So if you're excited for this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and let's go ahead and get started. Alright friends, here's the piece we're going to be working on today. It is a solid wood bed frame. It's in pretty okay condition. It is dirty and it does have scratches. So I'm going to show you how to give this a new life, refresh it, give it a little bit of an update. This bed frame is actually a commission for one of my clients, so I'm excited to show you how this one turns out. We're going to start this makeover as we always do by first cleaning the piece. I'll be using Dixie Belle's White Lightning TSP cleaner. I'll be mixing a little bit of that with some warm water, and then I'll be wiping down the entire piece using a microfiber rag as well as an old toothbrush to get in any edges or corners. This piece was fairly dirty, so I did have to replace my water a couple of times throughout this. Never be afraid to dump out your water and start over with clean water. That way you can get the piece as clean as possible. And after using your cleaner, you always want to rinse it off with clean, clear water. And just to give you an idea how dirty this was, here is the first bucket, my first pass, and then here is the water from just rinsing it off. This is why you always want to clean your pieces really well before you get started. And for primer, I'm going to be using Zinsser Bin Shellac-Based primer for this. I did use a 220 grit sandpaper over this before, just to make sure that everything adheres properly. You're going to see in just a second here, this can was actually faulty, which is super annoying. But I just wanted to show you guys this because not everything is going to always go to plan. Things are going to go wrong. And if you get frustrated, something's going wrong and you can't fix it, take a step back, take a day, take a break from it and come back to it later. You can always clear your head and come back and work on it again. You can see it's just dripping everywhere. The cap must have had some sort of leak in it, so it was dripping everywhere, so I had to stop. Here's what that looked like close up. And it also cracked on the bottom as well. So I got a different can and that seemed to work a little bit better, so we're going to continue on priming this piece. When using any kind of spray, whether it's primer or paint or clear coat, you always want to make sure to overlap your strokes just a little bit. That way you're getting the best coverage as you can. And don't spray it too close because that can cause it to be uneven. You can get drip marks if it is too heavy and it drips down. And it can also add more texture if you're doing thicker close-up sprays. And after I finished up that can, I decided to try a different Zinsser 123 primer just to see if this one is any better. I do actually like this one better in this case because it sprays a lot better, the coverage is better, and this wasn't a faulty can. So I didn't have any problems with this one. If you're not worried about severe bleed through, I would recommend this one. But if your piece is potentially going to bleed through or you're using a light color, I would recommend using a shellac primer. Now, after letting that dry for a few hours, I'm coming back with a 220 grit sandpaper to smooth out any texture as well as those drips from the faulty primer spray. I'm feeling along with my hand as I go to see where I've missed or where there's a lot of texture in that area. Now to remove that dust and debris, I am using a tack cloth to get all that dust off. My client wanted this painted black, so we're going to be using Bell's chalk mineral paint in the color Caviar, and I'll be using a Belle flat medium brush. This is a new brush to me. It is synthetic, so it helps with brush strokes, preventing those, and it helps with coverage as well. The only thing I don't like about this brush is that the bristles aren't super stiff. I prefer a brush that is a little bit more stiff and with bristles that are a little bit more tightly packed. This one is a little bit flimsy, and I do prefer a denser brush. The Annie Sloan brushes are my favorite for that reason, but I do like this one because it has that flat top to it. So I'm just applying this paint in long lines and smoothing them out as I go, making sure not to overwork it because the more you work it, it's going to start drying down and it's going to keep those brush strokes instead of leveling out on its own. You can see in the top left corner here, it is so hot outside that it's actually starting to dry. So I'm trying to move as quickly as possible so that I am not creating more brush strokes by going over areas that are already beginning to dry. It was only about 65 degrees outside, but it was already starting to dry everything down, which is crazy. So I'm using my spray bottle just to keep everything damp while I'm working it in so that it doesn't dry on me while I'm trying to move the paint around. I love this specific black color because of how good the coverage is. I've used some other brands of black chalk paint and they just don't have the same amount of coverage. For example, Rust-Oleum doesn't have that good of coverage in my opinion. Belle has really good coverage, so that's why I love using Belle for the most part. There are other reasons, but the coverage and the self-leveling properties are really important to me, so that is a big reason why I use Belle in almost all of my videos. And a little trick here, if you're ever doing a bed frame, if you want to work on 2 sides at once instead of laying it on its back and waiting for each coat to dry, you can actually put one of the side pieces into the footboard or headboard so that it can stand up, and that way you don't have to wait for everything to dry in order to flip it over. You can do both sides at the same time, so you don't have to worry about dry time or transfer or getting dust on it from laying it down on its back. It saves a lot of time that way. Now, after letting that dry for an hour, I'm coming back for my second coat, just continuing that process, applying it quickly so that it doesn't dry out and it can level on its own. And when I feel like my paintbrush is dragging or it's drying too fast, I am spraying using a mister bottle with just some clean, clear water. You can see the top section up there is already dry. It's so crazy how fast it was drying that day. After letting the paint dry overnight, I'm coming back with a tack cloth to remove any dust or debris that has gotten on the paint before we go ahead and seal this piece. And we're going for a flat finish today, so I'm using Dixie Belle's Clear Coat in Flat. And I'm going to be mixing a little bit of my paint into this to tint it so that there's no white hue or any fogging in the clear coat. It just helps the clear coat go on seamlessly and makes it look invisible. And I'll be applying this using my Zibra Chiseled Wedge brush. I'm going to start at the top and then work my way down. And if you get any thick areas of clear coat or any dust, you can just pick those out with your finger and then go over the area again. I'm applying this quickly and in long lines in order for it to look seamless and prevent brush strokes. And then just continuing down. When I apply paint and clear coat, I usually like to cap off the edges or corners before I smooth out the middle section. It just makes it a little bit easier in my opinion, but whatever is easiest for you, use your own technique, whatever you feel most comfortable with. You can see when it goes on, it does look a little bit gray-white, but it does dry crystal clear. And don't worry if it looks a little bit streaky or splotchy when you're applying it. This does level out if you apply it quickly. And now that it's all complete, I just want to remind you what we started with. And here's how it looks now. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this makeover today. I hope you enjoyed it. I personally love how this one turned out. I love the matte finish, especially with the black paint. I think it's really pretty and really chic. So if you enjoyed it, make sure to subscribe to my channel if you aren't already, and check out some of my other videos before you leave. I'll have my most recent upload in the eye here, as well as some other videos that I think you might like in the description as well. So thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate you being here, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye. How's it only like 67 degrees and I'm sweating? Ow! How did I get a sliver? Ow! Gosh. Okay. Sliding is so bad.